defamation lawsuit was just filed in New York by Diddy's sons asking Jaguar Wright to cease and desist. Diddy's sons are coming after Jaguar Wright for exposing their connection to his freak-off parties and how they were responsible for sourcing the minors. With Diddy on his way out, his children have started suing everyone that tried to reveal his secrets. 50 Cent, Jaguar Wright, and even Gene Deal, they all know that Diddy and his sons were at the same parties and doing the same things. Is this enough to silence Jaguar Wright, or is she going to continue to speak out against Diddy?
People online are saying that going after Piers Morgan was the right move instead of targeting Jaguar Wright. What do you think about that?
To me, if I'm being in that position, Paul, I'm going to say I need the truth told. I don't need her to ever be able to spread that again if it's a lie. I don't want to hear her say that. My kids got to hear it. People in business have to keep asking me. They didn't do anything to stop her from keep talking. And a lawsuit suing her would do that. And if they sued Pierce instead of a cease and desist, then everyone would know that you can get sued for that. But when you just say sorry, it's the damage was already done.
We apologize to Jay-Z and Beyonce.
So if someone would say, yo, you could put up some craziness and just say sorry, then why wouldn't anybody else do that? That's the only recourse.
This is not the first time that someone has tried to silence Jaguar, and it's probably not going to be the last time either. Just a few months ago, Jay-Z and Beyonce sent a cease and desist letter to Piers Morgan for airing an interview with Jaguar Wright where she exposed their connection to Diddy. According to Jaguar, all of these billionaires are working together to silence anyone that could reveal their crimes. Jaguar was never sued directly because Jay-Z and Beyonce knew that she can prove all of her claims in court.
This case that happened in the R. Kelly case, because if that had been properly addressed, this would have been addressed back then. These people have been working together, all in cahoots for all of this time, and it needs to all be addressed. I'm glad it's not just me anymore. I'm glad it's someone else. I'm glad there are other people who need to be heard. I'll be sure. I'm glad they're hearing him, Cassie. I'm glad they're hearing her, Kim Porter. Through, I'll be sure. I'm glad. Natanya Rubin, I'm glad. All of these things. So yeah, it's mixed emotions, but I just know when you pray for something and God answers it, you should be happy.
Things got so bad that Jaguar was being targeted for what she had to say. The one person that can link Jay-Z and Diddy together and come forward as an eyewitness is Jaguar Wright. And there's a lot that she can say that would send Diddy and Jay-Z to prison.
What happens with exposures? You make yourself vulnerable to all kinds of attacks, seen and unseen. What happened to my friend? When he passed away, there was $250,000 on my head and $150,000 on his. But what if I had decided to go back with my head held low and said, Sean, I'm willing to play the game, and then found a way to get inside of him and move him around?
Now, with Diddy set to be released in 2 years' time, his children have started to get things ready for their dad. It's not even their fault. They have no choice. According to Jaguar, Diddy's kids are stuck with the devil as their father. You can see it in their eyes. They don't want to be with Diddy. While Diddy was crying in the courtroom after his sentence, his kids were walking out smiling.
Why do you think Diddy's kids spoke out publicly?
What choice do they have?
Even I think one of the sons did a rap, and he's like,
what choice do they have? When you're dealing with the kind of narcissistic control freak that Diddy is, and you raise children under that, the financial abuse for all of them is probably the worst. Because there's no way they can make money without him. He has them locked in. And if he falls, who's gonna hire them? Who's going to fund them? Who's going to look out for them? No one.
Right.
No one. They're not fighting for their father. They're fighting for their survival. What they all gonna do? Go work? His reputation is tarnished. They're also being implicated in some of his crimes. They will be pariahs. They're gonna be worse off than OJ's kids.
So what's stopping any?
Like, did y'all hear what I just said?
Yeah, I frowned up. I was like, dang.
Does anybody think about what happened
to OJ's
to Nicole
kids?
Brown Simpson's children that she had with Orenthal James?
No one even talks about them. What happened?
It's like they don't even exist. And their lives are a lot more humble than they would have been.
Diddy forced his children to speak out in his favor during the trial, thinking it would be enough to get him off the hook completely. Diddy walked into court thinking he'll be a free man. He had even booked speaking engagements for next week in Miami. Not even this was enough to save him, though, and he still got 4 years in prison. Diddy is scared of what might happen to him behind bars.
Diddy's children speak about their father at his sentencing hearing. And they honestly don't have a lot of time to say much, but they were given a little bit of time to say something. Quincy starts off by saying he's transformed. He will not jeopardize his freedom again. As his children, we wish to heal together. Next up is Diddy's son, Justin. I ask you to give my father a second chance. My father is my superhero. My father always told me to believe in God. Talk to my father every day, every other hour. Next is Christian Combs. I am the one who most resembles my pops, my mannerisms. My whole life I studied my dad up and down. He's the greatest man in the world, my superhero. He told me to treat women like a queen, and I do. I see in his eyes, as his twin, that he has changed. My name is Jessie Combs, and I am 18 years old, and she cries. When my mother passed away, I was just a little girl. I remember my dad sitting us down. It helped me survive when I just wanted my mom. My name is Chance Combs, his daughter. He's changed, and she starts crying. Sorry. He speaks with a clear mind. My name is Delilah Combs. We watch our 2-year-old sister. She cannot grow up fatherless. Honor, please. And she starts crying. Let us move forward, not as a headline, but as a family. The judge says, thank you all.
Diddy didn't even turn to look at his children when he was sentenced. All of his tears were nothing more than a calculated move to gain sympathy before sentencing. His children didn't really care either. They walked out of the courtroom smiling, while Diddy was on his knees crying for his life.
He cried a lot today. When his children were just sobbing, you could tell he was on the verge of crying. When they were begging, please give my father a chance, please show my father mercy. And then he turned around, he told his kids he failed them, he cried, he turned on his mom. He said, I failed you, Mom, I cried. He kind of just exasperatedly put his head in his hands. So by the time all of that had played out and we got to the reading of the arguments or the rationale why Judge Submaranian imposed the sentence of 4 years and 2 months, he was saying things like, the statute requires a significant sentence. This evidence was massive in terms of the coercion. So when family members started to see it was going down that road, the children were stone-faced when the verdict was read. He was stone-faced. The only person who really showed emotion was Dana Tran, the mother of his youngest child. She could see it coming. She just started burying her head in her hands. So this is done. This is over. Obviously, we can expect an appeal in this case. We'll have to see what happens, where what prison he will be assigned to when he is released from MDC. But I just cannot underestimate how dense this was, because his attorneys moved from making legal arguments to making personal pleas. Even Nicole Westmoreland, a high-powered attorney from Atlanta, she started off saying what he had done for the Black community, how he broke barriers in hip-hop and hip-hop clothing, and in brand partnership with his spirits industry. Then she started to speak about how he personally inspired her. She got emotional, never seen a defense attorney pretty much cry or sob or be so emotionally wrought.
The only reason Diddy's family is still with him is because they're all involved in the same crimes. Justin was even named in a lawsuit alongside Diddy. This was all clear from the start. Diddy wasn't working alone. Finding out that the person helping him was his own son, however, is disgusting.
Here's where some of the allegations against his son, Justin Combs, come in. So all this takes us back to February, when Rodney Jones, also known as the producer Lil Rod, filed civil suit against Diddy. In his lengthy lawsuit, Lil Rod straight name drops Justin Combs, describing him as someone who solicits prostitutes, underage girls, and workers. There's actually a picture of Justin Combs with an allegedly underage girl shown in the lawsuit. Now, in this specific instance, Lil Rod alleges at least one underage girl came to Diddy's home for a listening party. The sex worker was also apparently solicited and a freak-off ensued. As an aside, this is the same night that Lil Rod alleges Diddy forced him to take a laced shot. He started to feel lightheaded and then woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, naked next to a sex worker. It's important to note Justin Combs is listed as a defendant on this case because, according to Lil Rod, he facilitated Diddy's alleged RICO enterprise and at times participated.
Chaotic scenes as Diddy's family came to court to support him at his sentencing.
How you feeling today, Mama?
His mother, Janice, was followed by his son, Quincy, and 3 daughters who entered court hand in hand. Another son and his girlfriend were also there to show their support.
Jaguar was pulling back the curtains on all these allegations. She wanted the world to know that Diddy was the reason Justin and Quincy had ended up being the way they were. Diddy turned them into monsters.
With Kim's sons, I'm so grateful that she doesn't have to witness any of this. Because this probably would have killed her.
Stopping
Any white Christian under scrutiny, Quincy being mocked and scorned, the girls now being implicated into home in the SA with their father by a girl who worked the white parties. Like, this is a lot. And they didn't choose it. They were born into this. I don't think anybody's paying attention to that. The choice that they got. If that man calls and say, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, what else are they going to do? They gotta bet on him. I'm sure they're all praying he makes it, because if not, what are they going to do? And they definitely can't count on Grandma Janice. They're screwed. One way or the other, they're screwed.
So there's no escape for them.
How?
50 mentioned all this in his letter to the judge, too. Before Diddy's sentencing, 50 Cent wrote a letter begging him to not let Diddy out. Near the end of the letter, 50 said Diddy's sons were involved in similar crimes, and if Diddy was let out, they would all return to doing the same things again.
The Moranian. Now, he posts this as a text message. I don't know if this was a text message to his lawyer, where maybe he was instructing his lawyer to write this letter to the judge. If you don't know, the judge is accepting letters in the case of the sentencing of Sean P. Diddy Combs, who's set to be sentenced tomorrow. And 50 Cent decided to write his letter to the judge as well. If you don't know, at this point, I think it's abundantly clear that 50 Cent is the baby father of the child that belongs to not only 50, but the woman that is identified as Jane Doe. That woman, I think we now know, is Daphne Joy. So Daphne Joy's baby daddy is 50 Cent. So maybe there's a reason and there's some relevance here for 50 to have somewhat of a letter being sent to the judge. Why? Well, one of the two victims, or the main two victims, which is victim 1 we all know is Cassie, but victim 2 is known as Daphne Joy. Who's Daphne Joy's baby father? 50 Cent. So he writes a letter and he says, "Dear Judge Summarian, I've had an ongoing dispute with Puffy for over 20 years. He's very dangerous. Multiple times I have feared for my life. I think you should consider the safety of the general public, Your Honor, before unleashing him upon them. There hasn't been enough time for him to reform or make any adjustments, despite his trying to teach a class in there." This is how you know he actually wrote this. This is bad grammar. Despite him trying to teach a class in there. As you're already aware, the government has spent maximum amount of money on deploying federal agencies, which appear to be an army, in 2 locations simultaneously. Later, his sons, who's dealing with his own R-word allegations, claimed that the feds had hit the wrong house. Anyway, Diddy's only going to return to hiring more male sex workers and keep most of the baby oil away from the general public, and babies need it. My Netflix doc on this scandalous subject is coming soon.
50 wasn't talking only about Justin here. Diddy's other son, Christian, has lawsuits alleging abuse against him too. According to court documents, Christian allegedly assaulted 26-year-old Grace Omar K. Grace filed a lawsuit claiming that Christian grabbed her and violated her after joining her at one of Diddy's yacht parties.
And she was 25 years old at the time. She believed that the trip would be a, quote, wholesome family excursion, but says it, quote, turned into a hedonistic environment, even describing rampant drug use amongst workers and celebrities who came on board. She believes that the alcohol on the yacht had been laced with drugs because she says women would have one drink and then almost immediately pass out or start falling over. This is, by the way, something that was also alleged in Jones's lawsuit, that Combs would spike the drinks of different people. But focusing on Christian Combs, Markey says that Christian Combs had been staying at a villa on the shore, but that he would come onto the yacht in the evening to party. And on December 28, 2022, Christian reportedly arrived very intoxicated and then proceeded to pressure Markey to take shots of tequila. She did. Christian allegedly tried to get her to drink more in the yacht's makeshift studio.
Let's not forget how Diddy's sons filed a lawsuit to block the release of their Kim Porter's memoir. This memoir allegedly contains details of how Diddy ran his operation and mentions specifically who was helping him. The only ones trying to stop this book from being published are Diddy's children. Allegedly, they want a piece of the profits.
Here is the other thing with Mr. Burgess. He apparently says he owns the rights to a book that was reportedly based on the alleged memoir of Kim Porter. In fact, according to TMZ, Burgess' phone was seized by the feds, and on it was a copy of a flash drive with material that was used in this book. Here's the problem. Christian and Quincy Combs, these are the sons of Diddy and Kim Porter. Quincy's actually adopted by Diddy. But they are reportedly fighting back, and they have sent Burgess a cease and desist letter to prevent the further sale of this book. They argue this is just an attempt to capitalize on Porter's fame and that they own the rights to her IP, her intellectual property, like her diary entries, her potential manuscript. As her heirs, they own it. And they also want an accounting of current sales of the book. To be clear, though, they aren't acknowledging that there is, in fact, a long-lost memoir from their mother. In fact, they've actually denied that before when there was a similar book, a derivative work, we'll talk about that, published by this guy named Chris Todd on Amazon. They were adamantly fighting against that. They said that their mother wouldn't write this. But what they're basically saying is if something should exist, they own it.
Diddy even used his family as a tool to help him pressurize the victims. Several times during Diddy's trial, prosecutors told the judge that Diddy had been in direct contact with the victims, and his family had also been reaching out to them on his behalf. As a result of Diddy pressuring these victims, several of them refused to testify, and one even wrote a letter to the judge saying that Diddy was innocent.
New details this morning in the sex trafficking case against Sean Diddy Combs. Prosecutors now claiming that from behind bars, Combs has been trying to reach out to victims and possible witnesses. And ABC's Phil Lipoff is here now with this story. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Gio. Diddy's lawyers trying for a third time to get him out on bail, but this time, the prosecution telling the judge about attempts they say the rap mogul made from behind bars to influence everyone from potential jury to alleged victims. This morning, prosecutors leveling new accusations against Sean Diddy Combs, saying he poses a serious risk of danger, even from behind bars as he awaits trial. In a court filing late Friday, prosecutors detailing the steps they say Combs is taking while locked up to reach out to prospective witnesses and influence public opinion to affect potential jurors.
The accusations within the prosecution's motion to deny bail are very serious and will be considered very heavily by the judge, because the judge is going to want to ensure that he is not influencing witnesses and or contacting anyone to influence a trial in any way.
Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges of racketeering, transportation to engage in prostitution, and trafficking. He denies any wrongdoing. The government now asking a judge not to grant Combs' third request for bail, in which the music mogul offers a $50 million bail package citing new evidence and changed circumstances.
Diddy's sentence is nothing short of shocking. He's getting 2 years after he terrorized women for well over 2 decades. 2 years is nothing for the kind of crimes that he was committing, and according to most other lawyers, it's surprising that Diddy didn't receive a longer sentence.
This was a very long sentencing hearing which Sean Combs himself, once larger than life, was left begging for mercy, standing at the defense table, telling the judge that he's a changed man, apologizing for his behavior. But that request for a lenient sentence of time served was rejected by the judge, Arun Subramanian, who said it was insufficient to send the kind of message that he wanted to send, that violence against women must be met with real accountability. And so he sentenced Sean Combs to 4 years in prison. That's not as much as federal prosecutors here wanted. They wanted 11 years in prison, reminding the judge that Sean Combs has a penchant for violence.
Gene Deal said the same thing. Diddy is lucky he got away so easily.
Because he only had to do 85% in the feds, and he goes to probably a halfway house. So he got off like a fat rat in a cheese factory. But for a dude like Diddy going to jail and spending all that time, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be rough or nothing like that, because his former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burrows, went to federal jail. You understand? Lil' Kim went to federal jail. So, you know, because the type of dude he is, you know, he'll make it, he'll be all right. And plus they're gonna send him to a camp, bruh. He'll be in somebody's camp or somebody's dormitory, whereas that it'll be real light for him. So, you know, he'll see the streets back again in 24 months. He'll be out within 2 years. It seems like a lot saying 50 months and everything like that, but it's not really a lot, not at all, bruh. It's not a lot at all.
Several judges and lawyers are shocked at the length of Diddy's sentence. There were over a dozen witnesses and video footage showing Diddy being violent and abusive. Even on the day of his arrest, he was engaging in freak-off sessions. Guns and drugs were recovered from the site. Even with all this evidence, Diddy is being allowed to get away scot-free.
What is your reaction to the sentencing? Do you think that this was a fair sentence?
I think it was a very fair sentence. And I think it's a good sentence for Diddy. I mean, if we go back to where this started, you know, with the racketeering and the trafficking, I mean, had he been convicted on those, he's looking at life potentially. So as well as an asset forfeiture of his businesses and his monies and things like that. So had this gone south, he could have really been devastating, completely taken the liberation of his life, of his freedom and his businesses. So where are we now? You know, we're looking at 50 months, which is less than what the prosecution wanted, which is less than what the sentencing guidelines were. So the judge even came in below that. And so if in light of everything that he was facing from the very beginning, even to now, it's really a good deal for him.
So do you think this is more of a win for the defense then?
I think it's more of a win for the defense. There was no chance he was going to get 14 months. That would have been off the table. What happened here really was, you know, even though sentences for these types of crimes could have been a little bit less, the violence that the judge commented on earlier really, I think, made an impression on the judge. And that's what exacerbated the sentence.
You said the judge is going to look at everything else that came out in that courtroom, and the sentencing will be related to that. So you were right. Were you surprised at the 50 months?
Well, I was surprised it wasn't more, quite frankly. Based on the prosecutors wanted 11 years. The judge, as we know, said he would be considering things outside of the conviction, and wouldn't give him $1 million bond. Or I think later he offered $50 million, and you wouldn't give him a bond. So no, I thought he was going to bring the hammer down a little harder. But 5 years is 5 years, 4 years and 2 months rather.
Right, because there is 14 months time served. So you're looking at about maybe 3 years?
Yes.
3 years. Now, what they're saying, now, I don't know if this is true or not. What's that?
The 1 year off, or 1.4, I'm sorry, year and 4 months, as
right.
you just said.
Exactly, yeah. 14 months of time served. So, but if he qualifies for the RDAP program, which is a residential drug abuse program, he could potentially get like 6 months off, maybe a little bit more off, some halfway house situations.
Diddy and his sons aren't coming after Jaguar just because of what she's saying about them, but because of what she has to say about the industry. Diddy was only the first domino to fall, and if people like Jaguar keep speaking out, many other big-name celebrities are going to go down too. Jaguar worked with Beyoncé and saw J-Lo up close. She knows all of their dirty secrets.
All Jennifer Lopez had to do was marry a white boy, Oscar winner, for people to stop remembering that she had a gun in her pocketbook. She had gunshot residue on her hands the night that Natanya was shot at that club. For all we know, that bullet came from the gun that was in her hand. And not once has she spoken up for the betterment of that woman. Not once has she donated to her family or for her medical bills that she's still paying, or say something in her defense to stop Puffy from gaslighting her and trying to put hits out on her because he was afraid that maybe one day they would open the case and she still has the bullet fragments in her face. Like J-Lo has said nothing. Nothing. You really thought that just running off and marrying Ben Affleck was going to take you out of the Diddy downfall? But it saved her the first time, though, didn't it? Because as soon as that club was over and as soon as they finished interrogating her, when she sat there and cried like a baby, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail. Benny Medina put her with that drunk white boy until she ran him off. Like, there are people sitting here screaming out at the toll that the atrocities that Sean Combs has done to their lives, and you're trying to avoid your part in the story or the fact that you never spoke up. You want to tell people on the low and put it out there that the movie was about you getting away from Puffy, but you didn't think about the trail of girls that you left behind. What happens to Cassie if J-Lo had said something to Diddler back then?
Diddy's behind bars, but the real story is still unfolding. His sons are suing, witnesses are disappearing, and Jaguar Wright says she's ready to drop even more names. The question now is, who's next? Make sure you're subscribed, because the next chapter in the Diddy saga is going to shock everyone.